I'm here. I'm back. Yay. We're going to be talking about denials and the science of mind. Denials and the science of mind. And I think this idea of denials is one of the most misunderstood in our teaching and maybe even in metaphysics overall, because it's the standard definition of denial, of course, is it's untrue, right? It's untrue. In the physical realm, that's what it means. It's untrue. And that's why we have to move it to that metaphysical aspect and in the spiritual realm to be able to understand what Ernest Holmes is really trying to teach us. Meta, of course, means metaphysical, means beyond the physical. So the physical definition of denial is untrue. But when we can elevate that and move upward and begin to see the metaphysical meaning of it, it just simply means rejection. You know how I sometimes say when we're looking at manifesting things and we don't want to push away our good by judging things, and we see someone, remember a Bentley story? The car? I saw the people driving the Bentley and I looked over and I had my little reaction and I caught myself with that and I had to clean that up. Remember that? I've manifested a car now. I've got my new car, yay. But I cleaned that up. But what I had to do was go into the metaphysical realm of that so that I could move beyond it and go, that's for me, right? In the manifestation, it's that's for me. And in what we're saying here with this denial and the rejection is that's not for me. That's not for me. These conditions, these situations that may be in my life right now are just effects. And they're not for me. And I'm going to turn away from that. I'm going to turn away from that and focus on what it is that I do want to receive and experience in my life. We know that two things can't occupy the same space. Have you heard that before? Yeah, science tells us that. So energetically, two things can't occupy the same space. So if we've got all of our attention on this negative thing, this condition or this effect that we're experiencing, the good can't be there. So we have to pull that energy away and put it over here so that we can now be a match to that good coming to us, taking our attention away, just simply rejecting, that's not for me, that's not mine anymore. I'm ready to let it go. It's like cleaning up our house, right? How many people have been downsizing, decluttering, cleaning out garages and cabinets and things? I know a lot of us have been doing that, and we're making space for the new energy to come into our lives. It's been said that our teaching here in the Science of Mind is a little bit like that story of Pollyanna. You ever heard that? Oh, you're being so Pollyannish. Come on, get real. Face reality. You ever heard that? Being excessively cheerful or optimistic because we are denying that condition that's in front of us. Now, nothing could be further from the truth. And Ernest Holmes, the author of The Science of Mind that we teach from here and the founder of the Centers for Spiritual Living, he said that we never deny that people suffer. We never deny that people suffer. We have suffering in our lives sometimes. We have icky, gnarly things that happen. That's what I call it in foundations. What's the icky stuff? What's the condition that you're wanting to change? We have that happen. We don't deny that. We're compassionate around that. What we do deny is that it is the truth of our being. That current condition is the truth of our being. It's not. It is an effect that we're currently experiencing. Ernest went on to say the reason we have difficulty in throwing off some weakness of character is because we have not induced the necessary images in mind. Thinking of our weakness keeps the image of it, that weakness, in our minds. We must turn entirely away from the condition. And this is reminding us that what we focus on expands. You hear us say that every week. Our prosperity program is designed around focusing on the unexpected good that shows up every week and tithing 10% of it so that we recognize that more and more prosperity shows up in our lives, right? What we focus on expands. It also works in the negative. If we focus on the negative, that's going to expand too, right? That's going to expand too. Now, you may be wondering, in our teaching where we use this idea of denials. And it's mainly in the spiritual practice of our affirmative prayer, that powerful spiritual technology that we have that is so transformative for our creative process that we have. When we begin affirming the new, if we've got a negative situation in our life that we're dealing with and we want to begin affirming that new and calling that in, sometimes our mind needs a little convincing, doesn't it? If I'm staring at a mountain of debt and an empty bank account, that's the effect I'm looking at. And to start affirming that I live in a prosperous universe and I know that God is my source, I might need a little convincing, right? My mind might be saying, yeah, right. Have you seen your bank balance lately? So we might need some convincing, and sometimes denying that that is reality, denying that that empty bank account, that mountain of debt is my reality, and affirming that God is all, that God is the source, that there is abundance in the universe. It's all around me. Look at the grains of sand on the beach. Look at it reflected in the stars in the skies. And just denying that that is my source, that's where we begin to use this process of denials to convince ourselves, really, of the truth of the spiritual essence of who and what we are. So I'm going to invite you to just bring to mind right now something that might be bothering you. Maybe there's a little something in your life. Most of us have a little something. It's probably nothing major because I know you guys are such powerful manifestors, right? But maybe there's some little minor, minuscule thing you could possibly think of. Got it? Okay. Now, it could be money, could be relationship, having one, lack of one. It could be health. It could be the creative expression of your spirituality. Okay? So bringing this problem or condition to your mind, do you see it as negative or positive? Do you worry about it? Are you blaming someone or something else for it showing up in your life? Not my fault. I'm going to bet we might have had a yes in there somewhere. We might have had a yes in there somewhere in that whole chain of thoughts and things, because that's the way we're wired, isn't it? That's the way we're wired. Is we're either going to worry about it and fret about it, or we're going to blame somebody else and get mad about it being in our lives. I didn't do this. I didn't create it. I didn't call this in. Am I close? Maybe? When something's wrong in our lives, we are usually worrying about it, how bad it is, how much worse it's going to get. I mean, we just know it is. We're all going to be bag people on the street, right? We just know it's going to be horrible. Or again, we get angry and we're blaming someone. We're blaming something. It's the government's fault that the economy is crashing and that's what's going on. We're blaming. Sometimes we want to build a house right in the middle of our conditions. Conditions happen, we step over there, we start building that house, we move right in, and that's my life. Conditions that I have, that is my life. We build that house, we move in. If it's money, we focus on the lack of money that's there, the mountain of debt that's there. We worry about what's next rather than turning our energy, turning our attention to blessing what we do have, to managing what we do have, to growing what we do have. You can almost feel the difference in the energy there. If it's a health challenge, we focus on the symptoms. We go to webmd.com. We research everything we possibly can about that diagnosis. We know what's coming next. We know what is the possibilities of how bad it can get, right? Rather than putting our energy and our focus on ultimate, perfect health, we're focused on the disease. And if it's career, we're likely complaining about the job we have or the one that we don't have, rather than being our very best self in whatever situation that we're currently in. Whether we're in a job that we really are not in alignment with, that we want to make a change with, rather than complaining about it, be our best self, so that we become that magnetic energy for the greater yet to be to show up in our lives. If we're looking for a job and it hasn't shown up yet, Go volunteer. Mostly volunteers are told exactly what they need to do, right? So you don't have to think a lot when you go volunteer. Usually you're going to do a duty and do that, but you're going to be giving back. You're going to be giving back of your talent and your time. And that opens up the energetic pathways as well. Relationship issues. Maybe you're in fear. Maybe you're complaining there. Rather than that, maybe we can open up to appreciation and love and see what happens. Have you ever noticed that when you appreciate and love someone, they usually reciprocate that? We've all seen it with customer service, right? When we go in and we're angry and we're challenging the customer service person, they're angry and challenging us, aren't they? But if we're nice and polite and kind, we'll usually get treated the same way. We usually get treated the same way. In this teaching, we realize that what we think about comes about. You've probably heard that saying before. The law of attraction tells us that we bring into our lives that which we are, what we constantly think about. Those 60,000 thoughts we have every day, right? That's the energetic magnet that we are that's bringing to us what we're experiencing in our lives. So does it make sense that if we're worrying about money or health or career or relationship, that I'm probably calling in more to worry about money, health, career, and relationship? Because the universe is energy, and we say it just says yes, but it's just energy that's flowing into what we've set up as our magnet. And so if we've set up worry, it says that's what you want, here you go. Rather than I'm setting up for abundance and opulence, I'm setting up for perfect health, I'm setting up for a loving and kind relationship, I'm setting up for the most wonderful creative expression in my life where I'm abundantly rewarded. If that's the energy that's there, that's what's going to be supplied, right? That's what's going to be supplied. Now, this can be one of the most difficult concepts to embrace in our teaching. Because you may be thinking, hey, wait a minute. You don't know what's going on in my life. It's horrible. It's icky. I got bad stuff happening. I got really bad stuff happening. And I did not call this in. I did not invite this into my life. And I agree. I agree. And I'm going to say that's not the important part. Because sometimes we get hooked into that, how did it get here? Why is it here? What did I do? How do I, what? And that's where our energy's going, isn't it? Our energy is still focused there, even if we're trying to discover how it got here, when we should be stepping over to the new energy of what we would prefer instead. Right? Can you see how that research, how that I've got to go deeper, I've got to discover why I did this when I was 3 years old and it's created this. And I know we all do that, and I am guilty of it. I am guilty of it. But I also know that when I can pull myself out of that, when I can move myself over to the acceptance of the good that I want, that I can start to forget that other stuff real quick, real quick. So I invite you to try that this week. When you find yourself really wanting to go into that exploration of how I got here, recognize that's not the important thing. What is important is what you're thinking today that is going to create your tomorrows. That's what's important. That's what's important. Those thoughts, again, create tomorrow, and that's what Ernest was telling us when he was saying, change your thinking, change your life, right? We change our thinking today in order to change our lives tomorrow. We don't dig in the past to change tomorrow. We do that today. We do that today. And this is why the science of mind teaches us to turn entirely away from the condition. He says that, turn entirely away from the condition. Don't say that it doesn't exist. I mean, that's an insult to your own sanity, right? People think you're crazy when you go, oh no, I'm not going through a divorce. I'm not going through bankruptcy. I'm not going through a horrible loss of my home. I'm not. You know, even if we are doing those things, if that is happening, if we're in that experience, we don't deny it. We have compassion. We have kindness. And yet we know that we can focus on calling in the new as well. In the Science of Mind, Ernest has a wonderful passage that I would have to say is probably my favorite passage in the book, and it's what is a practitioner? And I always switch it up, and I read it from the first person perspective. And the quote that I'm going to show you is a portion of it, and I left it true as he wrote it, but I'm going to read you the way I like it. And Mr. Keith is going to hand out to you, as soon as I get done with this, a copy of this for you. My mind is continually impressed with the images of right action. Everything in my life is controlled by love, harmony, and peace. Everything I do prospers. The eternal energy back of all things animates everything I undertake. I resolutely deny any evidence contrary to good and affirm the spirit of right action in my life now. Now, if you lived that every day of your life, would your life change? Would the problems in your life change? Yeah. So we have this for you today as a handout that you can begin to, go ahead, Keith, begin to utilize that in your life. Take that home with you and post it on your refrigerator. So as Keith's handing that out, I have another question for you. Has anybody ever covered your eyes in a movie theater? The spooky music came up or something was happening unexpected and you were like, oh my gosh, I can't watch this. I do that all the time. I do that all the time, right? Because I know I can't unsee it. And I certainly don't need any other images or skeletons in my subconscious that I've got to deal with. I don't know about you, but I got enough skeletons down there to clean out and deal with without adding a few new ones. Holmes reminds us to never look at that which you do not want to experience. Think about that. Never look at that which you do not want to experience. So if we're experiencing an effect of lack right now, or we're experiencing the lack of relationship right now, or we're experiencing dis-ease right now, never look at that which you do not wish to experience. We turn away from those conditions. We turn away from those conditions. No matter what the false condition may be, our denial needs to be based on the recognition that there's no limitation. We live in an infinite universe of possibilities. He says, mind can as easily create a planet as an acorn. Right? The infinite knows no difference between $1 million and a penny. Who does? We do. Right? We put those limitations on. Oh, I can manifest some abundance, but only this much. Right? Only this much, maybe that much. So our reading from our Joyous Living Journal suggested that we need to look at the conditions of our lives without judgment, without criticism, without feeling like a victim or blaming others. It sounds really easy, doesn't it? Everybody do that this week? Yeah? No? Not easy? We can't give our power away to the condition. We keep our power so that we can stay focused on the new that we want to change and bring forward. We choose how we would prefer things to be instead of keeping our focus on that condition. We keep our focus on the preferred condition that we're calling in. Turning away from the condition, starving that of our energy and feeding our desire. As I said, this can be a challenging concept to get because we're invested in our conditions. I get that. I've got my own, okay? I've got my own. We're invested in them. But I know consistently whenever I can move myself out of the place of the condition and begin to change my focus to that which I prefer, there is a shift inside of me. There is a shift inside of me. If you are trying to change something in your life and you're challenged by getting from the condition and the reality of what it is and moving into the new, the opposite of that in your life, get some support. contact me, contact Daniel, talk to a friend, get a therapist, whatever you need to be able to help and support you move through that with some of life's big issues. Because I know we've got them. I know that many of us face them in our community every week. Get the support that we need. Nobody has to go on this spiritual journey alone. There's a lot of loving arms in this community here to help us, to support us, to walk with us. Let us wrap up today with our practicing the principles and take a look at some of the ways that we can use our spiritual practices to support us through turning away from the negative. And don't forget to sign up for Mindful Monday. That's the email that I send out every Monday. I've been sending them. Y'all just haven't been getting them. I just found that out. I send them and I copy myself and I get them, so I think you're getting them. But then I opened up my I don't know, sent or spam or something, and there's this huge list of bounced emails, and I went, uh-oh. So I've been working with Joe. We've been trying to figure out what had happened. It's a glitch in my, anyway, I think we've got it worked out. If you don't get your Mindful Monday tomorrow, please let me know. Jill, Reverend Jill, ScottsdaleCSL.org, and we'll keep working on it, but we think we've got it. All right, number 1, don't build a house. Don't build a house in your conditions. Recognize them as a condition. Recognize them as an effect. Recognize them as transitory, temporary. Don't build a house. Look at it. Face it. Don't judge it. Don't blame it or criticize it. Just look at it and decide, what would I prefer instead? What would I prefer instead? Write down a positive affirmation about what it is that you would prefer instead, and use that every day, repeating it, and begin to change your thinking, shifting your thinking out of that effect and out of that condition. Number 2, don't worry, be happy. Worry is the negative use of prayer. You may have heard me say that. But if you think about the emotion of prayer, that's where the power of our prayer is within the emotion and the belief of it. And if we believe what we're worrying about is really going to come true, it's the negative use of prayer. So watch where you're worrying. This week, if you find yourself going in to worry about something, write another affirmation about that. Write another affirmation about that. And remember that you live in infinite possibility. Keep reminding yourself, I live in infinite possibility. The universe is huge. It's massive. God can make an acorn or a planet. That's a pretty good perspective. I live in an infinite possibility. Use the power of your word to call in the good of your life. Number 3 is reach out. Reach out. If you find that you're stuck or struggling, get some help from someone in this community, a trusted friend that can support you, not go into the weeds with you, but support you in knowing your truth. Contact me or contact Daniel. Contact a therapist. Someone that can lift you up and know the truth of you is not the condition that you're dealing with. Again, none of us has to walk alone on this spiritual journey. Denying the negative conditions in our lives simply means that we're rejecting them. That's not for me. I want you to say that. Everybody together. That's not for me. Yeah, that's not for me. I think that's a good one. They are there. They may have our attention right now. They may be big and gnarly and painful and all of that stuff. They've got our attention. But we know it's like, what was his name? Tony Robbins. We were just talking about Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins said that energy flows where attention goes. That's one of Tony's classic sayings. Energy goes where attention flows. Remember that. If your energy is on the condition, if your energy is on the negativity, that's where your creation is. That's where the creative energy is. And we really don't want to create more of that, do we? We want to create the good, the powerful in our lives. So I want to close today with the science of mind. And I'm going to share with you Ernest's definition of denial, because I think it's a good end cap to this talk this morning. Denial is the mental act of knowing that any negative condition need not be. Denial clears the way for a realization of truth. It is a wiping out of wrong reasoning. It is a cleansing of the ground, a dredging of the mental channels, preparatory to the building of positive, constructive affirmation. Bless you. Do not stop with the denial. That is only the preliminary step. Deny the false and affirm the real. As we grow in spiritual understanding, the need of denial ceases as thought rises to the spiritual perception. The need for denial ceases. We won't as frequently need to convince ourselves of the truth as we continue to grow in our spiritual realization. So would you join me in an affirmative prayer as we anchor this morning? We've been using the concept of abundance, and I'm going to continue that in our prayer this morning. And I'm also going to use some denials for us so that we can feel the way that this works in our affirmative prayer. How good it is that we go within in recognition of that infinite power and presence that is God. It is the source of all that is. It is life itself. God is not two. There is not God in something else. There is not God in anything else. There is only God, the one infinite power, presence, and substance that is life. And I know that all of that power and presence is right here, right now, in, through, and as me, as an expression of it. And as I know that for myself, I know that for each one of us that is gathered here this day, both in the room, online, and those that will be watching the recording later, knowing that we are all united in this wholeness that is God, this infinite substance and power. There's nothing outside of it, nothing and no one that is outside of this unity and wholeness that is God, that is this universal presence and power and love. For we are each created of that divine love, manifestations of it. And so knowing that, I speak my word for and about each of us this day, knowing that as we move forward in our lives this week, that there is no lack, there is no limitation, there is no restriction, there is no not enough of anything, and there is no dis-ease. There is more than enough, for God is the source of all that is. There is only infinite health revealed as God in, through, and as each one of us. There is flow of love, flow of joy, harmony, peace, balance, prosperity, money. Everything that we need is flowing to and through us now. There is absolutely no restriction. There is no limitation to the abundance of the universe that is available to us for the taking. And we open and receive with great, big, receptive arms this morning. And so I know, claim, and accept that anything today that anyone has on their heart as they raise that into the consciousness of this prayer and this community right here and now, that whatever needs to be healed is healed. Whatever needs to be revealed is revealed with great clarity, great joy, and with ease, and that every solution flows with perfect timing and perfect right way, perfect right action. I know that the money shows up in abundance to each and every person that seeks it, and to this community as well. And I know that if there is creative expression that is limited or missing, that it is opening, and as we open to receive the infinite flow of the divine idea through us and as us here and now. How grateful I am for this manifestation, for knowing this truth, for accepting and claiming this truth. And as I do so, I release this joyously with such gratitude into the action of the law, knowing that the word spoken is the word made manifest. And so here now today, we accept and affirm this truth in our lives by saying, and so it is.